Welcome back to the John Trading channel. In this video, I'm going to give you my price prediction for Arbitrum in 2023. Can Arbitrum go back to the old all-time high, back at this $90 range and higher? Find out in this video, so make sure you watch until the end. Arbitrum is a layer 2 solution for the Ethereum blockchain designed to improve the speed of transactions, increase scalability, and boost the network's privacy. It allows users to perform transactions off the main network and has them verified and batched before being committed back to the main chain. And that's actually how Arbitrum is able to use the Ethereum blockchain for its main security features, but it's also able to reduce the fees of Ethereum because it's able to be batched off chain, then deploying it back on the main chain, completely reducing the current fees that are needed on the Ethereum blockchain. So Arbitrum is definitely figuring out a solution for a big problem in crypto. Arbitrum makes the Ethereum blockchain faster and easier to use by letting smart contracts send transaction information between the main chain and side chain. The process uses optimistic rollup technology. A rollup is a general purpose scaling solution that entirely relies on the security of Ethereum, which allows the deployment of all the existing smart contracts from the mainnet with little or no changes. Now let's come over to the price of Arbitrum so I can give you my price targets for 2023. You can see we're currently on the weekly time frame using Binance USD, as this is the longest time frame I'm actually able to get, going back into June of 2021. If we currently look at price, you can see that we're in a form of a trading range. It's actually slightly slanted to the downside, and we're currently actually coming to the bottom of this trading range, potentially looking for at least a retest up at the top of this range, as we can draw a trend line straight across these highs, and you can see that it's acting as a resistance zone, slightly slanted to the downside. And this area is also acting as a support level, slightly slanted to the downside. You can see through this area in here, as soon as we broke below this low in this area, there were a lot of buyers. As soon as we broke below this area, you see we had a really strong push down, but potentially looking to the left, what's happened? People have been buying below bars, and potentially since we've been coming below this bar in this area, it looks like potentially people are going to be buying in this area, especially because we also have this trending trading range to the downside. We're hitting that support area, looking to potentially test back at this resistance level. You can see from this current price point, if we actually drag it up to the top of this channel, that's over 100, close to 120%. So a fantastic potential trade on this particular coin, Arbitrum. And if we were to use a stop just below the lows, you can see we'd need roughly around that 15%. So roughly targeting 15% to win around 120%. That's close to basically 1 to 8 risk to reward, which means you're risking 1 when you lose, and when you win 8 units. If you can use the correct risk to reward strategy, obviously this is not financial advice, but I'm just showing you what I'm personally doing in the market, and I use a maximum 3% portfolio risk on any single trade. So if I was to take this trade where I'd need roughly 15% stop and I'm only able to risk 3% of my account, if I actually take 1/5 position size and use that 15% stop, then if I lose on that 1/5 position size, that's actually a total of 3% of my total account. The reason I'm actually able to do that is because I risk less on the trade, so I'm actually putting less capital to work, but when I lose 15% on that less capital, it works out to 3%. So this would actually be my first initial price target for Arbitrum, actually retesting the top of this channel. The reason I'm still cautious of that is my main trading strategy using this 20 exponential moving average. I only like to trade in the direction of the 20 EMA. You see all through this area, we had a declining 20 exponential moving average. Every time we came into the value zone or slightly above the 20 EMA, we've definitely had continued selling to the downside in this area. So we would then need to move over to the daily chart and wait for a bit of a tick up on the EMA. You can even see on the daily chart here, we're having that continuous downwards movement in the exponential moving average. And that type of trading strategy is extremely profitable because what you look for is on the weekly time frame. If the weekly time frame is then continuing to the downside, you then look for breakouts to the downside where the EMA is also trending to the downside on the daily chart, and you're able to combine those two strategies and then look ultimate profits in the market. Once we're actually able to break out of this trading range to the downside, I do believe once we break above, we might use this as a bit of a support level. Once this resistance level gets broken, acts as a support, I think we do have a lot of rocket potential to the upside, and that actually correlates to my next price target for Arbitrum. So going to the weekly time frame, you can see in this area through here, actually looks like there's a lot of support in this area. You can see we support. We get breakout to the downside. We reject in this area, breakout to the downside, and reject in this area again. So all through this area, there was a lot of support. Once this support got broken, acted as resistance. Once support got broken, acted as resistance. And you can see we had that major downturn from this high all the way down, over an 89%, close to 90% drop from that current price point. So let me actually zoom into this side of the chart right here on the daily time frame so I can show you even closer. So price is a little bit congested because I have to show you on the daily time frame. But you can see in this area, that's what I was showing you on the weekly. In this area, we had this support level. Price came back down to this support level, and a lot of people thought we were going to make higher highs, actually breaking above this all-time high, roughly at this $90 level for Arbitrum. But you see, we had that major fail to the downside. Now look what happened when we actually came across in this area. So we came across from this low. You see, we got a breakout to the downside, and then what happened? We came back up, broke to the downside from this area right here. So we broke to the downside below this, and look what happened. We got that retest acting initially as support. Once we get broken to the downside, it's then going to act as a resistance level. We resist, we get a really strong break to the downside. We come back up, we actually retest this area for a second time, and then we have that major collapse to the downside where Arbitrum is currently at that $5 mark. So an absolutely massive drop. You can see how the support and resistance flip actually work in the market. Initially, support, we lost that support level in this area, then acts as resistance. We lost that support area for a second time, acts as a resistance for a second time before making that major move from roughly that $40 range down to that $5 range for Arbitrum. The reason I find this such a high level of confluence is in the market, not only because I find this a big support to resistance flip in the market, also like using the Fibonacci retracement tool where I bring it to all the way at this high, drag it down to this current all-time low, and you can see we get this population of the 0.382, 0.5, 618, and the 1 level back at the old all-time high. And look at what our current level is lining up with. It lines up exactly with that support resistance level, and it lines up exactly with the 0.382 of the Fibonacci retracement tool. So we've got a high-grade mathematical equation that a lot of people are using to actually say, yes, this is definitely a confluence zone in the market. And the second thing is also a lot of people would have been buying in this area, actually buying in this area and buying in this area. The reason being is once we made this all-time high, we made what seemed like a small decline to the downside. A lot of people were thinking, yeah, this is going to be the perfect time to buy, and we're actually going to break above the old all-time high and continue to the upside. So a lot of traders are trapped in these trades. A lot of people were buying in this area and they're still holding in their portfolio all the way down to the bottom of this trading range. So people are down roughly 80, somewhere 90% on their all-time trades in this particular market. And you can see that once price actually comes back to their trade, they're finally going to be able to get out break even. Not only are they going to be looking to sell in the market because initially they bought in this area, they need to sell to get out of their position. You're going to be seeing these support to resistance flip traders looking to sell in this area, plus this 0.382 level in the market looking to sell in the area. So this is definitely going to be my second price target for Arbitrum in 2023. If our current price, we actually drag it all the way up, you see that's over a 670% gain. So a lot of massive potential in Arbitrum, especially utilizing all of these utilities that it does, making Ethereum an even more cost-effective chain to use. Now, my third and final target for Arbitrum is actually going to be back at this old all-time high level. You can see we do have a good level of resistance in this area. We've got resistance, 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 resistance. We've even got a head and shoulders pattern in this area that's definitely going to act as a significant resistance when we come back. This first level of resistance, I do expect to at least act as a short-term resistance level before we break up, use it as then support before then breaking again to the upside, looking to break to our next level to the upside. And I do expect at least a significant amount of resistance again before we then look for this level back at the old all-time high, before we then have real significant resistance to the downside. So we've got continuous resistance, resistance, resistance in these areas. We've also got their old all-time high. We've also got the price that opened that at that $60 range, instantly had this downturn into this tree push wedge to the downside. So I do believe definitely in this area, once we reach this old all-time high for Arbitrum, we're going to have at least a significant amount of resistance. So we could do a bit of a trend-based Fibonacci extension, but since the price of this second price is actually lower, it makes it a lot harder because you can bring it from this low all the way to the high and bring it down to a lower low. It just doesn't make as much sense. You can't actually really bring it down to this lower low level. There's definitely a lot of price targets using this 1618 in the market to this high, but I do believe that is a little bit of a push. But seeing from this current price, that would be over a 30x from our current price. So obviously a big price target. My biggest price target really would be retesting this old all-time high. There isn't as much structure. It obviously lines up with a couple of numbers on the Fibonacci retracement tool. And this is the main one that I'd actually be looking for. Although you can definitely add in this using the trend-based Fibonacci extension all the way up to this higher level. If we were to break the old all-time high in this $80 to $90 range, then that would definitely be one of the next resistance levels. If we were to get a really solid break above this high, that would be one of the next levels you would really want to look for. But again, I do expect a lot of resistance at this old all-time high level, and it could take at least a couple of months to weeks to even trade out of that range before then looking to the upside. So hopefully that move would actually be more clear in hindsight as it's actually playing out than we can actually predict right now in the future. So I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a comment if you're enjoying these daily crypto videos.